Alright guys, it's here. I worked really closely with a lot of the top magics in most of the servers. I checked out a lot of stuff myself. I had other people check out some stuff because in the amount of time, there's no way I could have practiced everything. So I worked along with a bunch of the higher people, and this is our current magic build for Dimension Duel. I'm going to quickly go over what the build is, and then I'm going to go in depth of why I picked it, and then some gameplay at the end. Let's get into it. Alright, like I said, let me know down below if you prefer what I just did or what I'm about to do and explain everything that I'm doing. So, the skills. We start with the demon summoning Imps because the Imps mess with targeting. If your opponent does quick step strike or spin blades, it's hilarious because they will go after the Imps. There's been several times where an Iron Man has used spin blades on me, and then his second and third hits are he's hanging out with my Imps. This gives me time to focus on my cooldowns and such, and you have options. So I do like the Hounds right here because they're a highest guard break type skill. This is something we did a lot of testing with, and it can work if you want to go into a more guard break style build. This could be better as people are getting tankier and tankier, but right now the meta for Dimension Duel is pretty bursty, so playing with that burst style, the Imps are kind of a counter to the burst style metagame. As people are playing more Magic and getting tankier, Hounds could be an option. On that same note, another option could be the Legionnaire. This guy gets a lot better if you take the specialization that increases your summons attack defense HP by 30%. If you're taking Commander, I definitely recommend that specialization as the damage he takes is lowered by your defense and then lowered by his defense. Now on to Black Magic, Master of Abyss, Abyssal Advent, teleport forward, do AoE, and then do a 5-second dot for 13% of your attack per second. So 5 seconds of 13% plus the 550% right now. I wanted to have a black magic skill on my bar because of how the ultimate works. It gets cooldown if you use black magic skills. But a lot of the black magic skills weren't doing what I want them to do. This one can be used as a dodge. If a boss, this is a Dimension Duel video, but a good thing is if something's targeting you and you use this ability, you can see as your character goes down to a little circle and then reappears over there, whatever was already targeting you goes away, disappears as if it didn't happen. Now, if someone hits you as you're landing, then you still get hit, no issues. Now I have the skill bar the way I do right now because I like you open up with Demon Imps. The Imps need a target, but the range, some skills have a huge range. I'm sure you've been in Duel where you see Iron Man and Spider-Man. So Spider-Man puts down the bots if they're doing the bot build. They put down the bots at the back of the map of the ring. The Imps are very similar. She does her hand up and then summons the 4 Imps before the match even really starts, before they can even get over to you. And then you can close the distance with this skill because it has a pretty decent range and it tracks. So if your opponent moves, it follows the movement. It also has a large range, so there you go. Then I follow up with right here Demon Slayer, and that's because I messed around with all 4 versions of this skill. And this one I like because as you start the windup, she does an initial twirl around her head, and then she does a second big twirl on the ground, which does the knockdown. Once she does the initial twirl over the head, the skill will still land. So you can do the initial twirl, dodge, or use your ultimate, and it will cancel the animation, but that big yellow swipe will still happen while you're doing your other thing. This also has a decently low cooldown with a high guard break and a knockdown chance, so you're hitting all the buttons with this type of skill. Then we have probably my favorite one, Stepping Sword, Stepping Strike. I played around between this and Finisher. Finisher's upside is that you're untargetable during the entire animation. As you can see, it's a long animation, but it has like a 3-second longer cooldown, a lower guard break. Melee characters want guard break so they can stick to their target. And another big issue is, I'm sure you know, with Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, they use their active dodges a lot. With Stepping Finisher, it does not track, meaning it will go to where the opponent was when you click the skill, not where your opponent is when the damage happens. So, but Stepping Strike tracks like a mother. When you click the skill, it does the animation. So she goes invisible, and she goes towards the target at supersonic speeds. Also, an iframe, invincibility frame, meaning if something was going to hit you, or if something does an AoE at you, it no longer affects you during this animation. And then if your opponent moves, Magik will do this thing where she will go to where she was going to go, and then she will go to where the target is now and do the hit. So it's probably your best skill is Stepping Strike. Then, like I said, this skill is the one that I'm playing around with. There's a lot of options here. I know people are going to say this skill right here, Hunter in the Dark Encounter, because it turns off dodge. On paper, you're right. This should be a skill. It's black magic, medium guard break, cannot use dodge kill for 3 seconds, drag. It has everything. There's so many words on it, it's like cake. The issue with this is it has a long animation. It's easily dodged, so if they dodge it, you're stuck in this animation, and then you have to use your own dodge to get out of their dodge, and you wasted a 20-second cooldown skill. That's nowhere you want to be. Not to mention, there's several status checks across the board. The only other thing you have is a knockdown, which you don't care if that lands or not. If you do, gravy. If not, whatever. This is your only real status skill. And that's because there's a drag and a cannot dodge rolls. So your status effect accuracy versus their resistance to do the dodge negate, and status versus resist to do the drag. There's so many issues with this skill. I cannot recommend it at all. But what I have been testing is I like this one because it's a highest guard break. It has a super long cooldown, but it also tracks, so if the opponent moves, the fist will come down. It also has a huge area of impact, so it's a whole lot more likely that you'll hit them. Actually, the first and second version of this skill are both reasonable. The punch is really interesting because it's so quick. Look at that animation. It has like half the cooldown, medium guard break, and a knockdown. This is one that you can play around with. In my testing, it doesn't track at all, so it'll aim to where they were when you click the skill. It's kind of a fast skill, but as you've probably noticed, people move around. Alright, so let me know if you prefer the way I did it just now, or the way I'm about to do right now, where I go really in depth in the abilities. So starting with The Imp summoning, I like this because it messes with targeting. Um, when you start the match, just like Spider-Man's Spider Bots, you can immediately summon them from the spawn point. This sets you up to rush the opponent, or the Imps will rush the opponent. And when your opponent tries to use an ability like Spin Blades or whatnot, it will. The Imps are another target for them to hit. So when Iron Man does Spin Blade, assuming he picks you as the correct target, Spin Blade does the target and then the two nearest targets after the second and third hit. So he's probably going to be busy hitting your Imps. They're going to absorb some damage, and then you can readjust to where you wish to be. The Imps actually do a huge amount of damage. As you can see, 62% of my attack as damage. If you really want to lean into this, I don't recommend it, but if you'd like to lean into it, there's Specialization for 30% bonus attack defense HP. The Hounds is another option here. The Hounds are very good specifically in duel, and what I like about it is it has a highest guard break. It's pretty quick, but it has a 40-second cooldown, so if you miss the dash, then you're kind of fucked. They also stay around a little bit and do some damage, but as you can see, 45% versus 61%. 2 Hounds versus 4 Imps, there's no comparison there. The only other real option right here is Commander. So right now the meta is very much burst on your opponent before they can burst you. Or with Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, it's attrition. This is very good in that attrition matchup. And what I mean by that is some of the damage that would go to you goes to the commander instead. And if you do take that 30% attack defense HP for the commander, he can tank a lot of damage and just sit there for a while. I still prefer the Imps, but this is a lot closer than the Hounds that we saw. Next is one of my favorite skills right here, Master of Abyss, Master Advent. I wanted a dark magic skill on my skill bar because of how her ultimate works. It recharges faster when you use a black magic skill. This has a reasonably low cooldown. It also tracks a little bit, so if your opponent moves and you click the ability, magic will attempt to seek out where the opponent ended up when you click the skill. It also hits really hard, 550% damage, medium guard break, which is decent for a melee character, and a damage over time tick for 13% each second for 5 seconds, which is a lot of damage. It is just flat damage on top of the 550% damage. Next, this is a very interesting one. Arcane Sword Demon Slayer. Does the spin, has high guard break, also attempts to do a knockdown and damage. It has 2 animations. It has a spin over her head and then a large spin on the ground. After she does the mini spin over her head, you can dodge out of it or click your ultimate, and that will cancel the animation. Some people from other games might remember animation canceling, where once you get to a certain point in the animation, the ability still goes through and you can cancel and do your own thing instead. The ways to cancel in this game is using your active dodge, or in Magic's case, her ultimate is also an animation cancel. So you can do initial spin over your head, dodge out of it, and that ground spin, the yellow, will still happen while you're over here doing a different skill. Next we have right here, Stepping Sword, Stepping Strike. I messed around with Stepping Sword, Stepping Finisher, and Finisher is one of the coolest animations, but as you can see, about 3 more seconds longer. It does a little bit more damage, but it does not track. Meaning, when you click the skill, it's going to go to where they were when you click the skill, not where they are when the skill lands. Meaning, if they run to the side or what have you, they don't have to use an active dodge to dodge the skill. They just have to not be there when it lands. The upside to stepping finisher is magic can't be targeted during the entire animation. So when she disappears and when those blue circles are around, until she lands on the ground, she can't be targeted. Now, stepping strike, the one that I am using, does track, meaning when I click the ability, magic will go to where the target is, and if the target runs or dashes, she will go to where the target was, and then immediately go over to where they are now. Still doing the damage. It has a whole lot less stamina cost, lower cooldown, more guard break. There's almost no reason in Dimension Duel to use Finisher when Stepping Strike exists. Then we have the last one, which I'm kind of playing around with. First, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Hunter in the Dark Encounter. People have been using this one, and I see it on paper. On paper, it sounds amazing, right? You pull them in, they can't dodge, you go melee on them, you win the game, right? It's also black magic, so it works with your ultimate. But the issue with this is it has a long animation. Remember how I was saying animation canceling? You cannot cancel this, meaning if you go to move, it cancels the entire ability, which can put you in some really weird situations with a 20 seconds cooldown skill. Also, from the other abilities, the only status effect that we are applying right now is this knockdown, which is a gravy kind of thing where if it does knock them down, whatever, we still did the thing. If it does knock them down, it is gravy. It's just extra, and we can play off of that when it happens. This has two separate things it's trying to do. It's trying to do the cannot dodge, and it's trying to do a drag. So status effect accuracy versus resistance for the cannot dodge, and status effect versus resistance for the for the drag. And with our other skills not requiring it, we're probably not going to go into status effect accuracy. So there's so many things against the skill in play where on paper it sounds like it's probably your best skill in the game, but it doesn't work out that way in Duel. In Omega War, I can see it working because people aren't really paying attention as much, and you can just be like, hey, Spider-Man, come over here and slap him. Now, what I am using is Summon Demon Hand, Summon Demon Judgment. Highest guard break, it's a tracking skill, so if they move, it will come down there. It has a super long cooldown, which is the issue here. Now, the other options is Summon Demon Fist, which is a faster skill, but also does not track. So if you see me do the animation where you can see the sword turns red and I do a red strike on the right, when I do that, then you know that the fist is coming and you can run or dash or dodge out of the way, and then the fist will do nothing. The other option right here is Summon Demon Ripper, and this is a lot closer. It has a whole lot less cooldown, has a high, instead of highest guard break, it does roughly the same damage. This is AoE, so it goes through the target. You don't care so much about that. What you care about is the 50% movement decrease for 5 seconds. And that's because you're a melee character, you want to catch up to them. What dissuaded me against this option is we have two teleport style abilities that really close the gap. I have not had an issue keeping on my target. Now going into the next thing, specializations. Now let's explain what's going on with the specializations. I said this one's probably the most important. 12-second cooldown. So it's so interesting. So our spin slash, it will give us 20% bonus attack when we click the ability. The animation starts up, and then the second swing, it does the bonus attack. Now remember that skill can be action canceled, so we can go spin, dodge to the side, the yellow slash goes on the ground, and then we can use one of our other abilities to go in at the opponent, double dipping into this thing. This is your damage window, right? I talked about this in the PvE build. You trigger the mastery right here, and then you can click all your abilities and go ham. What's interesting here is if you get your personal cooldown to a certain level, then we talk about breakpoints. Once you get your the spinning sword to a certain breakpoint, then every other time you do it, this will activate. As well as the stepping sword is also a sword skill. It will be on cooldown, so you have two options of getting it. If you're on auto, which you probably shouldn't be in duel, every other rotation you will have this damage boost. So it's up about half the time. Then the other one that we said right here, like I said, how the meta is right now, it's a damage race. And when you start the match and you're trading blows, your opponent kind of sees what damage you're putting out, and then they play accordingly to that damage. Now, once they hit half, and then you hit them with a big hit, and they instantly die, they're not expecting that. They're assuming, okay, I used 2 dodges, I want to hold on to my 3rd dodge in case this other skill comes. In case Darkchild, your ultimate happens, and he wants to go off on me, I'm going to hold my 3rd dodge for that, and then you come through with a stepping sword, and then you triggering the soul sword enhance, and then you just kill them outright. Not happy, right? So it forces them to dodge more often, whereas if you didn't have the damage from this, then they wouldn't have to do anything, right? But, okay. So I want to talk about this one right here. I didn't mention the initial build, and that's the cooldown decrease. I've been asked if this works on your ultimate. It does not. Technically, ultimates do not have a cooldown. You have to use ultimate gauge recovery, and that is over time, and when you use dark magic class skills, you get your bar fills up. It does not have a cooldown. Technically, if you had infinite ultimate gauge, you can do ultimate. So this has bad returns, and what I mean by that is once you have full cooldown, which you can have from your badges, your cards, you also get some from squad rank, alliance, things like that. You can get a good amount from other places. If you don't have that, yes, by all means do limbo control. But Magic just has so many options that there's other things here that specifically in duel outweigh this. In Omega War, this will probably win out. We'll talk about that in the Omega War video. But in duel specifically, this gets edged out. Now, this is just a flat damage bonus. It's gives you 3% of your HP into attack. HP is one of the most inflated numbers in the game. Everyone has more HP than anything else. This is why people have 1.6, 1.7 mil magics, because they have 7 or more points into this. Mine's about 1.3 because I don't have points into this. If I did, I'd be hitting 1.7, 1.8 because of everything else I got going on. This, like I said, the current meta is damage. You outdamage your opponent, you probably win. Now, this taking a 3rd slot is not so great, specifically against Captain Marvel and Spider-Man. And that's because about 40 to 45% of the time you can't hit them, depending on their skill level, of course. But if you have something like over here, Eldritch Reinforcement, Legion of Demons, that's the first skill you're doing, summoning the demons, summoning the imps. You'll have a 25% shield for 5 seconds with a 20-second cooldown, and then in between that, You want to be weaving this with your ultimate back into this. And that leads us into the other one that I suggest over here, Mystic Disposal. And increase your attack and HP. This scales up to 25% as well during Dark Child, which is your ultimate. Now, what's interesting about this HP bonus is it's not a heal, but it acts like a heal. So it does not get bonuses from HP recovery, but when you use the ultimate and then you get that 25% extra HP, after your ultimate's over, you retain that 25% bonus. You don't lose that HP that you gained. You do lose the attack, but you don't lose the HP. So this can be a heal on top of the initial heal when you click the ultimate, which, against Spider-Man and Captain Marvel specifically, can be really powerful. Spider-Man does guard break and webs, where during your ultimate you cannot be affected by those things. Other things to talk about, really, I don't think this is worth anything right here. This is the other one that I think is really interesting because we're only using one dark magic skill, maybe two, depending on the build. This is Ultimate Gauge Recovery for 5 seconds with an 8-second cooldown. This can work specifically because the one dark magic skill we have has about a 10-second cooldown, can scale down to 9.2 seconds with max cooldown. So every time I use that teleport slash, the teleport dark magic skill, it triggers this. So I think it's the second time I use that teleport, I'm ready to do my ultimate, which is kind of where you want to be at. That's what I meant by breakpoints. You want to know going into the match, if I use this skill twice, I'm ready to ultimate. Very similar to Captain Marvel. When Captain Marvel does her jump ability, which gives her a bunch of ult gauge, everyone who starts, it'll be like every third time I use it, I'm ready to ultimate. And over the course of your build, you want to get into a spot where every second time you use it, you're ready to ultimate. Next into now Omega cards. Now, you're obviously going to want the Storm card. You're going to want the Captain Marvel card. You're really going to want the Doctor Strange card for the cooldown. That'll also give you a 2-piece set 12, which gives you defense. Obviously not the best, but it's bonus fluff. You're getting a bunch of HP from a bunch of sources, so defense gives you more effective HP, if that makes sense. Defense Pierce is a percentage, but it's a percentage over the top. There's a lot of math that goes into it, but these are some cards that you want. Right now there's no banner, so I don't suggest it. I do suggest the set 6. Now, why I say the full set 6? Set 2 bonus is crit damage. Set 4 bonus is crit rate. These are two numbers that really, really matter in the current meta. Everybody else, I've suggested the crit damage Loki card and the attack Thor card. Now, Magic specifically, I like to play more of a brawler style mode where you're trying to live through your ultimate and then out attrition your opponent. So having the defense and HP is not bad, and by having those two in there, you get the crit damage and crit rate. The HP specifically is really good because that converts into attack, as well as your shield and both of your heals is converted based off of your HP. Now, the other ones that I mentioned before, set 5 is good because the 2 set is attack. Everyone wants crit damage. Crit damage is one of the more inflated numbers, so you get more of the stat than other ones in the game. The Crossbones card and the Defense Pierce card. Defense Pierce is also a very important stat, so there's no issues picking these cards. Now, I can go over a bunch of other ones that are good, but the ones that you're wanting are set 2, You definitely want the cooldown card. You're trying to max that out. This is actually a really good card right here. Cooldown, defense pierce, defense pierce. Only thing that can make it better is if the bonus or exclusive were PvP up and PvP down. That's fine. But you also really want Darkstone for the Maestro card for ultimate gauge recovery. Because some of the actives that I've suggested care about your ultimate gauge. Now, if you're not going to lean into ultimate gauge, I don't know why you would not, because when she's transformed, she takes less damage from ranged skills, which is Iron Man, which is Spider-Man, which is a bunch of characters. As well as her auto attacks seem to do anywhere between 250% damage and 400% damage per auto attack, as well as her rate of attack seems to be 20 or 30% faster. These are just observations from several players over several hours. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think it's anything different. Going on to the costumes, if we go over here, so I said special steampunk because you raise one of the skills that we use, and you raise a class of skill we have 2 skills of. As well as the, in the previous video we talked about nano, you also know special equipment get bigger base stats than everything else. That's what you want. Now, what you also have the option of is Hydra. Hydra's probably going to end up being really good. Crit rate is a stat that you really want in Dimension Duel. And Soul Sword is one we have 2 skills of guaranteed, which is the only one that I guarantee 2 skills of. Now, what's also an option is Sakar, I believe it is. No. Xanderth. So Defense Pierce and Soul Sword. So you have to look at your crit damage. You have to try to hit these breakpoints. Is your crit rate high enough? Is it at 33%, so you're hitting every 3rd time? Is it at 50%, you're hitting half the time? Is it at 60%, which is you're hitting it every 3 out of 5 times, which is kind of where you want to be, is at 60 to 65%. Obviously, you can max out at 75% every 3 out of 4 times. But Defense Pierce is a little bit more important if you're not getting crit damage. If you have a bunch of crit damage, 200% or more, then the crit rate is where you want to be. If your crit damage is kind of low, 120, 150, things like that, you're going to want the Defense Pierce. Now, the only thing I didn't talk about previously is companions. Now, I personally really like using Ultron. Ultron is one of my favorites because I can't miss it. I can click it as soon as the match starts. I can use it about 3 times per match. But the other options you have here is currently Icarus is hands down probably the best in duel right now. He does the punch and then the laser. He can easily do 80% or more of someone's HP just off of one button, and you didn't do anything. One of the best things that you can be doing. Now, what you also have the options of is Yondu. Yondu is interesting because most other summons need a target. Yondu does not. So he's always seeking a target. The moment a target is available within his range, he automatically goes to hit the target. So if Widow does her ultimate, he will seek out that target. But like I said, Ultron is my favorite. Icarus is probably the best option. For my play style, I prefer Ultron. And the other... So there's some testing with Spider-Man applying webs. Spider-Man is good with, you guessed it, Spider-Man. But the only other things to talk about here is Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh will be good on any character in duel. You want to wait till your opponent does their dodge, and as their dodge finish, you want to 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then as you're at that 1.5 Mississippi, click Gilgamesh because of his summon time, and then he will land as their vulnerability ends, doing the stun, and then you can go off on the target. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think I missed anything. As far as ideas against other characters, I've kind of been sprinkling that in throughout this video, against Iron Man, against Spider-Man, against Captain Marvel, against other big characters. But we're going to get into some of the gameplay. Till next time, guys.